Yes, welcome into Sportsbit Betting Insight today, Wednesday, October 19th. Big game breakdown, Bears and the Packers, and Oregon and Cal. The deep dive, NBA season preview, rapid fire with two win totals we like with the play of the day, only 8 days away from the start of the association. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Let's start with baseball. The Cubs were a bad bet. The Cubs have played 100 postseason games in their history. It's the first time they've been shut out in back-to-back games. Hill threw a gem, and Teddy, this Cubby lineup, 4 hits. Brian had 2 of them.
Ice cold. And I said, what I say on yesterday's show? I said that game smells bad. The Chicago side smells bad, and I still feel that way. I did last night. I was able to cash a ticket with the Dodgers. But let's see, the Dodgers played great ball last night. As you mentioned, Hill was dealing. The bullpen behind him was every bit as good. The lineup, key hits, good at-bats up and down the order. I thought the Dodgers were a little bit mispriced going into this series, and up 2-1. My opinion hasn't really changed all that much. I still think Dodgers are alive to break the Cubs' hearts once again.
Yep, I can say it because I can't prove it. I think the Cubs would have beat the Nationals in 4 or 5, but they're in a lot of trouble now. Well, what do you think later today, Teddy? It's the 20-year-old Urias against Lackey, and they might bring Kershaw back in Game 5.
Yeah, and if they have a chance to close him out, I absolutely would bring Kershaw back in Game 5. You don't want to go back to Wrigley. Even if, obviously you don't want to go back down 3-2, but even up 3-2, if you have the chance to close it out in LA. But let's not get ahead of ourselves, okay? Lackey versus Urias later today. Like I said, I'm not going against the Dodgers. I thought the Dodgers were the value team going into this series, and that, in my opinion, hasn't changed. And Lackey is not a guy who I'm in love with. He's,
well, they can't hit.
And exactly, when the middle of the order is as cold as the middle of the order is for the Cubs right now,
yep,
and the pressure just mounts with every loss.
Mm-hmm.
The Braves won a whole bunch of division titles, didn't win a whole lot of World Series. And again, a long way from being over, but gut reaction from the get-go, I don't want it. Chicago, and I certainly don't want to lay a price with
Yep, I think it's over. 1908 for a reason. They got to see if the bats can come
2-1, it's over. Come on.
It's over. Teddy, I've been watching this for 39 years. 1908 for a reason. This is the curse of the Billy Goat, all this other stuff. They can't get it done. All right, now, Cleveland hasn't won since 1948. The Blue Jays force a Game 5. Another under for the Indians. 6 of the 7 playoff games have gone under. Sanchez with a solid effort. And now the Indians hand the ball to Ryan Merritt, lefty. 1 start, 5 innings against Kansas City. I was watching his post-game interview on YouTube he did. He must have said how nervous he was 5 or 6 times. Well, now he's in front of Toronto trying to send his team to the World Series.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Estrada, he was solid in Game 1. He allowed, 2 runs over 8 innings, only 101 pitches through those 8 full. He's worked into the 8th twice in the playoffs. Only 12 pitches per inning. So, yeah, the Jays deserve to be significant favorites here, as they are. And, Cleveland better watch themselves. It doesn't happen often, but we have seen it happen where a team came back from a 3-0 deficit. That team, the Boston Red Sox, they went on to sweep in the World Series.
That'd be interesting if Toronto can win this game today, goes back to Cleveland Friday night for Game 6, then they could be a little bit tight. Market moves, NFL, Thursday night, more on this game coming up, but money coming in on the Bears and the under, Teddy.
Yeah, we'll talk about why the money's coming in on the Bears. -9 to -7.5 for Green Bay. When we do big game breakdown, we will not, however, explain why the money's coming in on the under, with the exception of maybe there's some anti-Aaron Rodgers sentiment in there. But when we talk about the litany of defensive injuries for these two squads, the under money, something of a surprise. But they've been betting Thursday night games under, particularly Thursday night divisional games under. There's a bit of an auto bet, an auto play on those games under, because historically, the long-term trend is Thursday night divisional games tend to be low scoring.
The Colts have won 9 in a row against the Titans, and they're 8-1 ATS, but we see some Tennessee money. Could it get to 3?
Yeah, it could. That's definitely threatening to go to 3 versus the Colts. It's not there yet. It's up from -2 to -2.5 with juice. And this is the type of situation where if you're like Tennessee, you want to bet them sooner rather than later. If you're like Indy, you can hold off for a while, as the +3s could be available. Delaney Walker, the Titans tight end, with a noteworthy quote, "Probably the Colts think they can come in here and beat us and get back on track, but this is a different team, different organization, different coaches. Our mindset is to have them come up here, and we got to put a whooping on them. That's the only way we're thinking, is to get the W." As you mentioned, Indy had won the last 9 versus the Titans, going 8-1 ATS in those ball games.
Chargers-Falcons, one of the late games. Money on the over, bet up from 51, now it's 53.
Yeah, Matt Ryan getting some respect. The Chargers offense getting respect too. And that's not the only over taking money. What about the Saints Chiefs? The Saints Chiefs is up at 50. You know the last time Kansas City had a game totaled at 50?
Let's have it.
It was Andy Reid's first season on the job after Romeo Crennel back in 2013. So it's been a while. Not a total that we're used to seeing with Kansas City. Then again, if the Saints are going to be totaled at 50 in Kansas City, that also speaks volumes that you're not going to see any Saints games totaled under 50 moving forward.
All right, and this makes sense. Monday night, Houston on the road to take on the Broncos. Bet up from 6 to 7.5. Money on the under 2. You would think Wade Phillips will know how to slow down Osweiler.
Yeah, and that's really, it looks to be what this is all about. When we talk about the early week NFL money, pounding these lines into shapes, you know the markets are going to be looking at Wade Phillips. And the fact, remember, Denver had a chance to sign Brock Osweiler. Denver chose not to sign Brock Osweiler, or re-sign Brock Osweiler. And Wade Phillips the market certainly think Wade Phillips is going to show why Denver chose not to re-sign Brock Osweiler with the under money and the Broncos money, with Denver coming off those back-to-back losses.
Yes. All right, up next, big game breakdown, Bears-Packers, and the Ducks and Cal College Friday night. Plus NBA quick preview, as we're 8 days away from the start of the NBA. Coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Go to SBROdds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on SportsBit, Paulie and Teddy, 6 days away from the start of the NBA season. One correction there. Big game breakdown coming up. Go to sportsbookreview.com. Beat the prick. Your chance to win $50,000. It's now week 7 of the NFL and college football betting contest. 5 picks go against the prick and see if you can win. He's 15-14 on the season so far. Teddy and his picks this week. He's taking dogs. He likes the Bears. He got 9 plus 9 in the Bears. What do you think of that?
Yeah,
pick?
good number. No question. Getting best of the number. Can't argue with that. What else you like?
Dolphins plus 2.5 against the Bills.
No, he didn't get the best of the number with that one. That being said, I like the play. No argument. Miami with a healthy offensive line making all the difference last week.
Rams plus 2.5 in London against the Giants.
Boy, my first reaction was to like L.A. in that game, and the more I looked at it, the less I liked L.A. in that game. All right, what's he so far? I got him about 1.5 and 1.5 so far.
Okay, Raiders plus 1 in Jacksonville.
I don't like that play at all.
Best bet, Eagles plus the points at home against the Vikings.
No, I don't like that play either. I say he goes 2-3 this week.
2-3? I'll go along with that.
Yeah, sure.
Too.
That sounds fine.
Looks like a 2-3 from here as well. Thursday night football, Bears and the Packers. Green Bay 7.5, 45.5 the total. The Aaron Rodgers decline continues. Yards per attempt. You see this graphic, 2014, 8.4, 6.7, and this year 6.5. And look at the passer rating, 112.2, 92.7, 88.4. 2015 was not all about Jordy Nelson after all, Teddy.
Well, that's just it. Last year, we're like, the problem with Rodgers is that Jordy Nelson isn't there. And that's why his stats have declined so markedly. Well, now Jordy Nelson is back, and Rodgers' stats are even worse than they were last year. And sure, they've been a little bit banged up on the offensive line. And yeah, maybe Green Bay doesn't have the downfield weapons that they once did. But let's be real about it. Aaron Rodgers hasn't been that good. And the interception he threw last week was as bad a pass. If it was a rookie, we'd be like, bench that guy. So to make it worse for Green Bay, they're not even going to have Eddie Lacy available this week. Here's the tweet from Ian Rappaport. Packers expected to be without Lacy for several weeks. It's more than a sprained ankle. So they picked up Niall Davis in a trade from Kansas City. You never want to trade for a guy on a Tuesday and start him on a Thursday. He may have to play in this game for Green Bay. So, and the defense, what we talking about earlier in the show with the line move towards Chicago. That makes sense. We talk about the defensive injuries. The line move towards the under, not so much. But, Demarius Randall got hurt last week. He had a groin injury. So they got Ladarius Gunter. He's a former undrafted free agent who before this season had never played more than 31 snaps in a game starting. They have Dimitri Goodson on the other side. He's a guy who's been on special teams and hasn't been involved at all. He had a 4-game suspension for mandating the league policy on performance-enhancing drugs and just got back on the team. Micah Hyde is a nickel cornerback. The dime corner is Morgan Burnett, who's played every different position for the Packers secondary so far this season. The whole thing's a mess right now in Green Bay for the offense and for the defense, which makes it a little bit difficult to talk about laying more than a touchdown with this squad. The quote from Goodson about the defense, this describes an NFL team. That's why you got to have depth, man, because you just don't know what's going to happen. I feel like every team around the league deals with it in some way or another. Some are worse than others, but I feel like every team deals with the same stuff. That is true. Green Bay dealing with cluster injuries in their secondary right now. That's not necessarily where you want to be in this point spread range.
You know, in talking to my contacts, one guy I know who's close to Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers cannot stand McCarthy and doesn't think much of him as a coach. What if they lose this game? Would you whack him? Because you know who's going to win that showdown?
Rodgers is supposed to, but McCarthy's been there a long time. And I wouldn't disagree that if you think about what Green Bay would have looked like over the past decade with a different head coach, it might have more than one title under their belt.
Okay, yeah. You're wasting the prime of Rodgers' career, too. But is Hoyer good enough to take advantage now of everything we just discussed with this Packer defense? Respectable stats the last 2 games, just dumping it off short passes. When Pro Football Focus took a look at this, they said Brian Hoyer's limitations, NFL QB, were on display Sunday afternoon. Hoyer's always been able to hit short passes but struggles down the field. That's exactly what happened on Sunday. On throws under 10 yards, 25 of 35 for 233. On all throws over 10 yards, 5 of 13 for 79 yards. He also struggled when pressured. His QB rating under pressure, 54.6. Ooh.
Yeah, those aren't great numbers, but at the same time, the Bears' offense has looked better with Brian Hoyer behind center compared to what they were looking like with Jay Cutler. And it is still a team. They don't have great weapons. They still have some weapons. And Green Bay isn't exactly a squad that I feel comfortable laying more than a touchdown here with. The only way I can look at this game is taking Chicago plus the points. I do not want to lay a TD plus with the Packers. And maybe Green Bay's breakout game is coming. Maybe this is it. But until I see it, I don't want to bet it. This is not a situation where I want to be proactive with a public team like the Packers laying more than a touchdown. And with Green Bay right now, I need to be a little bit reactive, especially because the Bears' stats, week in, week out, they continue to look pretty good, which tells us they may be a little bit better than their record would indicate.
Yes, last game, live odds, sportsbookreview.com, Friday night, ESPN, Oregon and Cal 3, 87.5 the total. What's that?
I'm laughing. 87.5.
Yeah, high it is.
We're not going to see a lot of totals higher than that. That's about as high as it gets.
Well, it's every Cal game. Come on. Both teams off a loss in a bye. Oregon State beat Cal. Oregon's lost 4 in a row. Nebraska, Colorado, Washington State, and Washington. The Ducks are 0-5-1. ATS had the tough push at Nebraska. Cal 2-0 straight up in ATS at home. Wins over Texas and Utah. 2 upsets. 0-2 ATS is chalk, though. Oregon State and Hawaii. And for fifth-year seniors at Oregon, a major role change. And now you wonder, they had this time off with the offense. If Webb can, because they had limited practice as he was a transfer, if Sonny Dice can add something to the playbook.
Boy, there's a lot of stuff to comment on there. Let's start with the both teams off a loss and a bye. Here's Oregon. They've lost 4 straight. Nebraska, Colorado, Washington State, Washington. All those teams are good. All those teams are better than Cal. All right, so you have a Ducks team that is certainly going to be focused, coming off a bye with extra time to prepare. They've yet to cover a point spread this season, so there's absolutely no ATS pressure on Oregon after years of there being ATS pressure. There's no more tax that you're paying with the Ducks anymore. And you talked about Cal. They have 2 wins at home, 2 covers, both of them were as underdogs. They've been favored twice. They failed to cover twice. Now we look at the series history. You said for the major role change for those fifth-year seniors. Look. The last 4 years, Oregon wins 44-28, 59-41, 55-16, and 59-17. We're talking dominating Cal, like it hadn't even been close. The closest is what, a 16-point win for the Ducks. Now Cal's favored this year. And of course, Cal, you talk about a team, they cannot stop anybody. The losing team, not the winning team, the losing team has scored at least 40 points in 4 of the last 5 Bears games, and all 5 were 1-possession games inside of the final minute. I can tell you who's going to win this game. Whoever has the ball last. That's, from a betting standpoint, that generally means take the underdog. But it also tends to mean take the over at 87.5. Can you get there?
Yeah. Webb, 22 touchdowns, 2,200 passing yards already, too. So, as I mentioned earlier, wasn't with the team in spring practice, the Texas Tech transfer. Do you think Sonny Dykes will add a new wrinkle?
Oh, I'm sure he will. And that's bad news for Oregon's defense. Because, look, I mean, Davis Webb, he's not great. But he can certainly run this spread offense, and he'll make a couple of throws every game. You're like, no. But, as we talked about a moment ago, Aaron Rodgers can make those throws too. But the fact that we got a Cal team with extra time to prepare, that means more wrinkles in that offense for Sonny Dykes and company. And the Oregon defense, look, let's be real about it. It's been a disaster under Brady Hoke. And I mean a complete disaster. First 3 Oregon Pac-12 games, they have averaged 31 points a game. And they've been outscored by 23 points a game. That's insane. They're giving up 54 points, 642 yards, 6.7 yards per rush, 9.3 yards per pass. And now you're facing a really good offense that's had extra time to prepare. Good luck, Oregon. I know that Cal is the weakest of the foes you've played in your last 5 ball games. That doesn't mean that you're going to be able to beat them.
I can't believe Helfrich is still there. He had a good quote about fighting through the job pressure, as he's likely to be gone after this season. Quote, you're always managing some outside noise. In those situations, it's the Heisman this, you're the greatest that. Everyone's the greatest. That's not where you want your focus. In our situation right now, it's the opposite of that. That's not where we want our focus either. Constant approach to getting better, improving, and competing as a team. Nobody's more frustrated than the people inside this building. At the same time, we have to go about solving it. The same people that say you're the greatest or the smartest or the best, which that's probably not true, are the same people that tell you you're the bottom of the barrel or whatever other adjectives might be in there, but that's not true either. We absolutely have a plan in place, both from a coaching standpoint, a development standpoint of how we're working through this phase to deal with where we are, end quote. It's been a disaster. No ifs, ands, or buts.
Yeah, I mean, look, Oregon is a team that has not yet covered a point spread this season, and the expression is you don't try to catch a falling knife. When the markets tell me that there's legitimate value on Oregon, that they're absolutely being priced appropriately, maybe I consider playing the Ducks. But this team has been priced incorrectly. They have a head coach that is absolutely under fire right now, and a program that's not used to losing, going through some really hard times. Yeah, and my gut, initial say, all right, a coin flip game, you take the points. But the more I thought about it, the less excited I was about taking Oregon plus the 3.
Up next, the deep dive. NBA less than a week away. We'll run through a couple new moves, player movement, and some totals that we like, win totals, coming up on SportsBit. Betting Insight today on SBRPicks.com.
Hey, SportsBit viewers, tune into the Alley Odds Couple Show for today, Wednesday, October 19th. These are tough playoff games. Mike Brenner and I continue to break them down, and I have a pick on just one game, the Cubs game. Mike Brenner decided to have a pick on both games, Mike Brenner.
Yeah, I did.
How you feeling about it?
Well, we're breaking them down, but yesterday they broke me down. But guess what? When you're all done with Teddy and Paulie, and they know what it's like, this is a tough business. But when you're done with them, come on over to our house, okay? We got some good insight.
Back on SportsBit, Betting Insight today, Paulie and Teddy, at Paulie Howard, at Teddy_covers on Twitter. NBA, less than a week away. The big story, Durant to the Warriors, their win total 66, Teddy. What do you think? Well, let me start here. Who's the second best team in the West?
I have no idea. And I don't want to have an idea. I'm going to let the play on the floor show me who the second best team is in the West. There are a lot of choices as to who the second best team might be. It might be the Clippers coming to the campaign. I'm certainly not looking to sell L.A. short, but let's start with Golden State, because here's a team that went all out, set the all-time NBA win record last year, and then fell out of gas in game 5, 6, and 7 of the finals. This team has zero interest in the regular season, except for how do we get Durant into the mix, and how do we make Durant comfortable with all the different lineups. And does Kevin Durant make them better? Maybe, a little bit,
A little bit.
That's just it. Kevin Durant's not going to be the guy here. He's going to be a complementary piece. When you have a team that already has great players at every position, and you add another great player, I don't know that from a power rating standpoint, I don't have Golden State power rated any higher than I did last year coming into this year. And given their lack of emphasis on the regular season this year, I would be surprised if a week or two into the campaign, I have them ranked lower than any point than I did last year, even with Kevin Durant coming to Golden State.
Expect some rest, expect some guys to sit, and Kerr already said he's going to experiment and tinker with a few things during the season. Sure, why not? Spurs, 57.5, their win total. Duncan retires, they bring in Paul Gasol.
Yeah, I mean, it's a heck of an addition, and Paul's a guy that you'd want on that team. I thought Pop would go with Duncan. I kind of thought they should have gone together. Are the Spurs the second best team in the West? They might be. They looked old at time last year, but we think about the big three. The big three haven't been the guys for San Antonio in any of the last couple of years. Now with Danny Green and Kawhi Leonard and all of that. And Pau Gasol, interesting fit. I'm fascinated to see what Pop has them looking like. They might end up being a pretty good bet on squad if the markets have, but at 57.5, obviously the markets haven't devalued them too much yet.
I'm looking at the Rockets. And D'Antoni takes over. Harden's going to play point guard now. They're averaging 130 points per game in the preseason. So they surrounded Harden with shooters. They're going to be up and down, crazy tempo. And we'll see how the Rockets do this season. How about James Harden? Bet from 22-1 down to 8-1 in some spots to win the MVP. Ever see a move like that before on MVP?
It doesn't happen a lot because MVP is such a bad bet that nobody likes to make it. Or the wise guys don't get involved with MVP bets a lot. But when you have someone that is going to put up monster stats like Harden, if the Rockets are any good, he'll probably be in the discussion. So it makes some sense to have a move like that for Harden once he was announced that he was going to play the point.
The Celtics finally land a big-time free agent. Al Horford comes in from Atlanta. Are they the second best team in the East? They're 52.5.
I think so, yeah. Look, we like Brad Stevens. We like everything that Boston has done throughout the Brad Stevens era. The problem with Boston is they've kind of been an under-the-radar team, and now they're not. And in terms of Horford being the guy to carry a team to a championship, he did. At Florida, he did. He had a whole lot of help. But in Atlanta, he never seemed to be the guy in the postseason that they could rely on to step up and help them win a series. But Boston has going to put a lot of emphasis on the regular season, unlike some of the other teams we're talking about. I could only look at the Celtics over 52.5.
Okay, the Bulls, how far have they gone down in your opinion? And the Knicks, a lot of money on the Knicks, believe it or not, in Las Vegas.
Well, I'm not surprised. Let's start. Okay, the Bulls are lined at 40, and the Knicks are lined at 40.5, and my power rating is the Bulls better than the Knicks. So, Freddie Hoiberg didn't have his roster last year. And Chicago lost a couple of big-name guys. Oh, Noah's gone. Oh, Rose is gone. The Bulls have Fred Hoiberg's roster now, and I think that they are coming into the season a really undervalued commodity. And the Knicks, as long as Carmelo's their superstar, and as long as Carmelo's the guy who's going to command the ball, now you get a washed-up point guard, and he's supposed to make you better. Yeah, you get to have to pay Derrick Rose a lot of money. I think the Bulls got the better of that deal, getting rid of that salary as opposed to the Knicks for picking it up.
Well, no surprise. We're both high on the Timberwolves like everybody, and they bring in Tibbs. Timberwolves thinking playoffs.
Oh, yeah. Timberwolves thinking playoffs. But the sleeper team in the West isn't Minnesota. It's Utah. Utah, they're lined at 47.5 wins. Minnesota has the hot commodity, and everyone's like, Towns the guy. And, if we were starting a roster, the NBA GMs were all polled, and they said, Karl Anthony Towns would be our number one pick. So, and he may well be the low post behemoth that he was last year. But Utah played extraordinary defense under Quinn Snyder last year. They got the rim stopper, the rim protector in Rudy Gobert. The Jazz, of course, outside of any media market, outside of any hype machine, I think you'll make more money with Utah initially than you will with Minnesota.
Can the Blazers do it again? 45.5.
Jeez, I don't know.
What a story last year. What a story.
They were unbelievable last year. And, in theory, on paper, they should be just as good this year. But it just feels like the competition around, it feels like, number one, they overachieved. And number two, there's a lot of good teams in the West. Maybe not a lot of great teams, the way they were a few years back. But the competition in the West is fierce, man. And that doesn't make it easy for Portland to have the type of success they enjoyed in 2015-16.
Bottom of the league, the Lakers are 26 win total. Only the Nets are lower at 21. Who's more hopeless, the Sixers or the Lakers?
Well, the Lakers are more hopeless than the Sixers. The Sixers, but then, of course, then Ben Simmons gets hurt for Philly. Yeah. I know. The answer is they're both hopeless. But I think the Lakers will be bad for longer than the Sixers will be bad. The Sixers are going to get decent. The Lakers might be bad for a long, long time. a real long time, because it's not like LA is the marquee destination. Even without Kobe, they couldn't get free agents to sign for what is now considered to be a subpar organization.
Yes, all right. Great to have the association back. Looking forward to the season starting next week. Money time, play of the day, 2 win totals, 1 over, 1 under. Let's start with the Cavs, under 56.5. Fat and happy? Why not? They just win the title. They don't care about home court. I'm sure they're going to sit guys. They know they can cruise through the East. Shouldn't be a problem there. I don't see the Cavs busting it hard during the regular season. And the Rockets over 43.5, minus $1.40. Again, they're scoring a lot of points. I like Harden at the point guard. Outscore people, and I think the Rockets bounce back after a disappointing season. 2 win totals there with the play of the day here on Sportsbet. Cavs under. Warriors too, right? I mean, you said it without saying it. I can't expect the Warriors to. I don't expect the Warriors to win 67 games.
No. I mean, the problem with Golden State, of course, that total's already been bet down pretty heavily.
Yes, right.
There were 69, 68.5, and those are all gone now. So while I like the Warriors under, if you don't already have it in your pocket, you've missed the best of the number, and that's not the way to make money betting long-term futures in the NBA.
Yes, all right. We'll talk to you Thursday on Sportsbet. College football previews, the marquee games, and we'll recap the MLB playoffs. We'll check in with you Thursday. Sportsbet, betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.